then I came back and I was like, went to the governor's office, like, we got to pass this bill. And it was like, nah, that ain't it. So I spent about $200,000 lobbying, getting stuff together. And then I had to go to the G8 summit to speak, which is...
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Which I thought was a G4 summit, right? I'm in the studio all night. I'm smoking, making beats. My dude's like, yo, what you doing? We got to catch a flight at like 6. I got this, dog. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I keep on going. Get to the airplane. Get a double Bloody Mary.
double Bloody Mary, though.
But have a blast, right?
We sound crazy.
Yep, that's the vibe. That's the classic right there.
That's the vibes.
Yeah. Welcome to another week of We Sound Crazy. Your boy, Phillionaire, is here. I'm still in the ATL.
Claude Kelly in the building. What up, ATL?
What's up? It's Chuck Harmony, and I'm here.
Atlanta, Bacon from Macon is in the building. I'm almost home. I'm not quite home yet.
We got a king in the building.
From Georgia.
Yes.
A king
from Georgia.
King.
Another GA legend.
You know what I'm saying to you?
Man.
He's got over 50 Billboard Hot 100 smashes and 17 top 10s. I'm talking about a Grammy Award-winning producer, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, entrepreneur, DJ, philanthropist, and film producer, which I'm going to thank him on camera because he actually made a way for producers like me here in Georgia.
Wow.
But ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. Dallas Austin is in the building.
What's up?
Yo, this is I'm already bugging because you've been on our list since we started the podcast.
Definitely.
Because we wanted to talk to people that really, really shifted culture, and you are one of the culture shifters for real.
Thank you, man. I mean, you know, all of us, you know, when it's considered culture shifters, we all had something to do with that, I think. You know what I'm saying?
That.
I learned so much from you. There's so much to get into, so I don't even know where to start. But you started playing Creep.
One of my favorite songs.
One of my favorite songs of all time.
Wow, thank you.
And I'm just the soundscape that you create for artists and just in general is like, it's so unique and so genre bending that like it's hard to pin down what the genre is. It's just great music. But what influences you when you create these kind of songs? Is it one genre, or are you listening to a billion different things?
What's crazy is back then, you know, I was always into everything, so it was hard to channel music at one point because, you know, I was into everything before everything got hip to be into. So I was always into alternative and Chili Peppers and all this stuff, you know, tons of Prince records and tons of the Time records, and you know, anything that was then, it was considered underground when Prince was doing like Dirty Mind and all this stuff. So I always like just drew from everything. You know, I was fortunate enough to come at a time where over here you had a white kid sitting next to you, you're listening to U2. Over here you got Run DMC. Over here you got girls listening to Prince. So it was like an amalgamation before the industry would allow you to really be that way. You know what I'm saying? Because back then the boxes was in. It was like, okay, if you do this, you do that. That's
if you're black, you do this.
That's right.
Yeah.
By the time we got to Creep, because even when we started with TLC in the first place and we came out with Ain't Too Proud to Beg, I was such a, you know, Bomb Squad fanatic with Hank Shockley and all them. I just wanted to be like them, you know, and make records too. So I would just put noise all through the whole records and then write a regular song on top of it later. And then it started to become, that's my thing. That's kind of cool. It's got more noise in it than anything, and you still got a real good song on top. But then the radio stations wouldn't play it because it was like, what is this? Same thing you're saying. It's like, it's noise all in it. Over here, you got too much noise. She's doing 2 inches a yard in the record. Like, this is so
you're hitting all the red flags.
All the red flags. And then, you know, so that's why we went with the video first on TLC so they could see them first and then come back around to the records.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then by the time they saw them with the condoms on their eyes and everything else, it was considered more rebellious, even though to us it was like the female version of BBD or the girl version of ABC.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of like, you know, but by the time we got to Creep, it was interesting because, you know, the sophomore records are the hardest records.
Yes.
When you have an artist that blew up on the first album, especially then. Now it's way more murky than it used to be. But it literally used to be like, okay, your first single, second single, album, and then your sophomore record. If you hit on that one, you got to figure out how you're going to deliver the next. And if you do that, usually you're going to make it. Yeah, right. So by the time we got to the second album, I'm thinking, well, how am I going to grow them up a little bit without it, you fracturing what we already built.
Yeah.
All the colors and all of this and all the
Yeah.
fun and all the excitement. But you can't stay there because the women got to grow up, you know. So when we started working on the second album, and I remember when I first started, I let Creep sit up for a long time because I thought it sounded too country at one point. So I was just singing it to myself every day. Keep it on the down low. I was just get my car right around. Keep it on the down low.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I want to record that on them. So I would just go and hit my MPC. I would leave it up for weeks and just go in there and just hit the MPC and just say, keep it on the down low. And then I just said, let me get Deborah to come by and record it.
Deborah
Deborah
Killings.
Killings.
One and only
You know,
Deborah Killings.
I didn't move without Deborah Killings. Whenever I did records, I would write them and then have her come sing them. And then the artist would come sing them after that. And then we'll leave Deborah's background in. And then by the time I got to the song, and then I'd have a cymbal crash. I call myself putting a horn sound in like Pete Rock.
That's how that happened.
Really?
And it was the last thing I thought of. It wasn't even a part of the record like that. It was just
That's crazy.
And
That's
that's
the iconic part of the
about
track.
it.
Clive Davis is who pointed it out to me because I turned the song in. And LA went through a few different times of changing the record because he had shot like 2 or 3 videos to Creep. He couldn't get it right. He's like, man, maybe this ain't the right song. And then Clive called me and was like, man, LA's wrong. You're going to get a Grammy for this record. And the Miles Davis horn sound, I said, Miles Davis? Where's the Miles Davis horn sound? Because it's not a Miles Davis horn sound, but to him, that's what it resonated as. And I was like, oh, he's like, that sound will stand out more than anything in the record. And then I was like, I didn't really pay attention. So like I said, I was just trying to do the Pete Rock thing, but then
They highlight that, and the way they highlight it in the video too, because as soon as the video see the horn, I'm like, this is a classic right away.
that was Clive's. That was him pointed out, and literally, it got to the point where you be sitting in a restaurant and you can just hear that real low, and you know that's what's coming on.
Yes.
So, bam, bam. I was like, oh, that's what it is. But it was interesting to grow the girls up, and to get them to the sophomore album. And then to get Waterfalls and all that coming from it.
Yeah.
That really just set the plateau for them to go ahead from that point.
Yeah.
In your opinion, we're talking about TLC. In your opinion, what was it about them that just, because I mean, I remember being super young and seeing them for the first time, and it was just like something I had never seen before.
Yeah.
Timon learned how to read actually from that first album.
Yes.
Who on the TLC tip?
TLC tip. I remember it was a yellow insert, the cassette.
Yeah.
And just kind of cross-referencing the word with what they were saying. Okay, that's how you spell baby, 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 baby. What about your that's how I really
That was your school.
Yes. Right. Yes. But I just, in your opinion, what was it about them that just made everybody just stop in their tracks back in the early 90s?
Like, even if you see something like it now, you would feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like, because when the girls came around each other, they were just in their own world, and they were just firing off. You just like, what are they doing, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But the excitement of kind of looking at them have their own world and how they were playing and their perception of stuff, and Left Eye coming up with crazy little sayings, and like, you're just like, what is going on right here for real? Like, this is. But in the world of back then, looking at BBD and them being mental, with the different shoes on, and then coming another Bad Creation. And then Crisscross and all. So everybody was in this fun state. Music was in such a fun place that everybody was trying to figure out how to capture the fun. That's all it was. It's how do we capture the fun that everybody's having? And so even on that first album, like, we just had fun all the time. Water guns, playing in the studios, whatever they said, I would take it down and record it, or whatever we were doing, we just made records out of it. And that's what really got captured on all of it.
That first album just deserves some credit, because I mean, we started with Creep, but that on the TLC tip album is so brilliant within itself.
Yes.
The interludes, like the things you're saying, the personality you get. That was, for me, those are my formative years of, like, I always say there's the music that your parents teach you to like, and then you get to an age where you get to choose your own music, and you might start making a little money and buying your own stuff. And that is a whole nother journey for you. And that album came out around that time for me, where I was like able to pick what I thought was hot. And I studied that album so hard. The credits, the albums, the interludes, you get to know all their personalities. But sonically, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, What About Your Friends? Nothing sounded like that to this day.
It was crazy because there's so many samples in the song. That's why they were stacked. The drum sounds was like stacked, like 5 different kicks, 3 different snare drums,
On Ain't Too Proud to Beg?
everywhere. Yeah, if you hear it, you can't hear them because it's mixed like that. So the main snare stand out, and the hi-hat, the one I used to use, like kind of just like a little snare for a minute. But all through there, it's so many sounds and samples and stuff. Like, if you go through the tracks and be like, that's in there too? That's in there too? Where?
It's genius.
And then What About Your Friends? it just turned into like a train moving at a certain point. I just kept stacking and it stopped. So I was like,
all of them records, man. Hat to the Back.
Hat to the Back. And then we did a record. It was interesting because, again, as a part of fun and hip hop, it was still a part of the times at the time. So you would still incorporate messages that was important. Like, so when we did His Story over mine, this girl Tawana Brawley had a case in New York. Yeah,
Tawana Brawley,
Tawana Brawley was the Breonna Taylor for back then.
Yep.
So that's why we gave shots out to her and kind of made the record about that situation. They're gonna believe His Story over mine. So it was a way, I think, like when now music it's gotten to a point where it's like kind of linear in that sense. In the 90s, we did have, it was a part of a message, it was part of some kind of, culturally significant thing that had to happen, that music was the way to translate it to. So whether it was Public Enemy, whether it was Ice Cube during that time, whether it was just the Bomb Squad, or just people making records being vivid. You wanted to see them. You feel like you was looking at the records when you're listening to them.
Yeah.
So when you hear an NWA or any record, you like listening to it. Sirens are going off. They're talking smack. They're shooting dice.
It's all in there.
Yes. So and there was a point where people spent the time to make a project. They wasn't thinking about what song come out first or what single it was. You was like, what do I want my project to feel like? What is my, and
I do miss that.
I stick with it, man. That's why I don't make a lot of records now in that sense. If I make a record, I make a project on somebody, but like a record is just not interesting like that.
It's crazy you talk about seeing the record because I go back to the interlude before the Bad by Myself. One of the first.
Which one is that? T-Boz kicks him down the stairs?
Yes. That immediately comes to my mind.
He was like, damn, I was going to take you to the club.
They would get into it all the time, and she was starting to blow up, and he was getting jealous.
Yeah.
And
so that's based on truth.
Yeah. That was
that really?
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's him on the back going, Tia!
Yeah.
Because it was Troy, that was her boyfriend at the time, and they were like this, but at the same rate, she had started to blow up some, and he had started to like kind of lose his way in it, and then start getting into it with her and all this, and it started to cause the rift. So like, well, he gonna get left behind. I'll kick him down the steps.
He looked
Tia,
those interludes, man. Just a sprinkle a day. Sprinkle today. Should be my home day.
So Dallas, I want to go back to Columbus, Georgia. Your
Let's do
childhood.
that. Yeah.
Your mom owned a nightclub and restaurant, and your stepdad played for James Brown.
Yeah, Jimmy Nolan. He played all the notes for James Brown. Before it was my stepdad, my dad got shot when I was like 2. My brother's like 4. In the restaurant nightclub, because that's where all the people, the pimps, politicians, musicians, everybody hung in the same little area. And so before that, if the Tina Turner, James Brown, anybody came to town, they had to perform within the confinements of downtown in this one area that my dad controlled. So we got a hold of everything in there. So if James and Tina came to town, like before I was born, they would play there and have to stay there because of segregation. So he controlled the whole black area of music, prostitutes, pimps, politicians, soul food restaurants, funeral homes, just a community, you know what I'm saying? And so me coming up there first and then coming up around music where, the 70s bands will be playing, on the blue shag carpet, local bands will be in there playing in my mom's lounge, and they'll leave the stuff set up. So next day, I would go in there and just play everything. I would go in there and DJ. I would go in and just play. I remember the first record I started playing, I think was like Soft and Wet Prince record one day, because I thought it was a lady. I didn't know it was a man because of the cover. But then Horner clavinets and the guitars and the Fenders and all that, just being around it, I started to identify with, what is this? What is that? What is this? And then playing with it all the time. That was like, I was going into elementary school, probably out of nursery into elementary school. And it just stayed like that for a while. Every day that was the routine. And then my brothers were in marching band and stuff too. So we just started forming local bands in Columbus, like trying to be Prince in the time and trying to be Dr. Fink and, coming home playing Get It Up every day on the keyboard. Like, and that's how you trained yourself then, because Columbus was so small, there wasn't a vision for music there for you. You just thought that, it was just local, and the hometown local bands were like the band. You thought they were Earth, Wind, and Fire, but really there's a local band playing, So Columbus was like that, but it was real, real small. My brothers were always in jail, so we could see them at the jailhouse across the street.
Dang.
My mom would roll by, wave at them on the way to the soul food restaurant, which was right across from the jail. And so I think because of, too, what my dad's reputation was for so long there, then first off, the city started to get kind of involved and start planting drugs and stuff in my mom's restaurants. And doing you've seen it on the Dolomite, on all the Dolomite shows, right? But that thing started going down in the 70s, heavy like that, and instantly, all the politicians start surrounding my mom because of my dad. So the Curtis Atkinsons, the Calvin Smyers that's here now, and Sanford Bishops, and all these super black politicians. That's how I know all of them. To get all the stuff I get done in Atlanta, because I know them from Columbus when I was a kid.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's crazy that it goes back that far.
Yeah.
Back that far. All in the music.
So when did songwriting and production become a thing that you can consider a career path for you? Was it during that time?
It's during that time because I want to, like I said, we had like small bands, me and my brother. And, you know, I just wanted to be like Prince in them. So every day I would come home first and just want to act like I was in their band and play their songs and, you know, go and play Lady Cab Driver and learn all these Prince songs. And then I started looking at his covers. I started looking through the Prince album covers and the George Clinton album covers and looking at the Mothership Land and started to be like, well, what is he talking about? And what is Chocolate City? And, you know, and I just started going through. And then if you looked at the lyrics, especially Prince, everything meant something else. You know what I'm saying? So even the way he spelt the words would be different than other stuff. So you start being like, oh man, look at what this means. And so that's when I really dove into songwriting and being like, one day I want to make songs like this. And then when I got to Atlanta, I really started to dive into what would be my own version of a songwriter. Because I met Joyce Irby through Deborah Killens, through Princess and Starbreeze. But she was like, man, you're such a great producer, because at that time I was just like producing and making tracks and being like, here, take this.
Yeah.
But then I write to them on my own and they wouldn't hear that. And then finally she was like, what are you singing over there? And I'm like, oh, hey, Mr. DJ, please play my favorite song. She's like, oh, that's a great hook.
Yeah.
So then from that point she was like, oh, you're a writer, you should just be writing your stuff. But then I started writing stuff for her and with her, and then she like learn, hey, you know, it's important to have a melody. I'm like, what is that? The same thing you're playing on the keyboard, follow it. So, okay. So I started going through that kind of, I was just interested in how everybody was doing stuff, you know.
A sponge, basically.
I was just sponging up,
just
man,
taking
and
it all
like, and also quiet. I would just take in everything, you know.
I'm interested in knowing, because with you being from Columbus, like with me being from Macon, we were watching what you all were doing, like the TLCs, the So Defs, LaFace, Monica, like and that helped us know, okay, Atlanta is the move.
Yep.
I think a lot of us that are from Georgia, the natural step after leaving our small town was to go to Atlanta and try to just figure our career out. What helped you understand that Atlanta was the progression from when you left Columbus?
We would come up here on the weekends to get our polo shirts.
It was the fashion, baby.
If you wanted a polo shirt that nobody had in Columbus, then you had to come to Atlanta to get
Wow.
it. Right.
True.
So up here you had Riches.
Yeah.
Down there we probably had like one, you know, mall shop or something like that. So me and my brother, we would come up on the weekends, stay with my aunt, and come to get polo shirts, and then go back to Columbus and be fly as hell at school.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, where'd you get that polo from? You know what I'm saying?
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
But in the process of that, you was like, oh, look at the city.
Yeah.
You know, you start seeing the buildings and the Peachtree Plaza and stuff, and you're like, okay, this is it. This is the city.
Yeah.
And so we would do that migration, you know, back and forth. And then finally, like, you know, I was probably like 12, 13, I was just like, you know what, because my brother was in high school, so that's why he was doing we would go with him because he was really into the polo shirts. I was just the younger brother to get to wear them, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, at that point, especially because once we got back, my brother was in jail. My other brother that was out of jail finally got me my big keyboard I wanted, the JX3P. And, you know, he ended up throwing it, breaking it, and that's what really set me off. Because my only hope was in that keyboard. Like, in being in Columbus, I didn't even think about Atlanta at that point. I was thinking, I'm gonna make it out of here, you know. But, you know, out of being frustrated because he threw my keyboard and broke it, then I was like, okay, I'm out of here. That's it. I'm going to Atlanta, and I'm gonna be a big producer. I can't do it down here. My mom was like, what do you mean you're going to Atlanta? And I was just at the bus station. I was like, I'm leaving. That's it. Who broke my keyboard? I'm out of here. She's like, yeah, okay, I know you mad. When you finish getting mad, come back to the house. Ain't no but, because my mom's restaurant was a soul food restaurant, and the house was connected to it. And so we moved there. We wasn't living there first. I was living in the suburbs. Like me and Kim Porter, all of us lived in the same neighborhood. Frank Thomas. And so when I moved downtown, Then start seeing rats run across the floor, and my bedroom was a makeshift floor, and like this, I was in culture shock. So I was
Different
like,
world,
it was a different world.
Different world.
And so my mom was like, okay, well, his music is a saving grace. Don't bother him. Let him do his thing, you know? I would do that and I would go skating. That was my two things. Just leave me alone and let me do that. And then after he broke my keyboard and I told my mom I'm leaving, she basically came the next day and said, look, give me some time to sell the restaurant. You're not going without me. Let's go to Atlanta.
Wow.
When you first got to Atlanta, because Atlanta is like the mecca of black music, especially back then in the 90s. When you first got there, was it electric? Was the city like, this is about to be the next place for music?
Yeah, it didn't feel electric at all. It felt like I landed in College Park, the first place I could get to, getting here. And it was like, you feel like you're somewhere different, like out of Atlanta, but it didn't start to electrify yet. I remember meeting JD, he was probably 15. And he had this like Herbie Love Bug outfit on. And like, 'cause remember Herbie used to wear the white jumpsuits all the time. He was doing Salt and Pepper. And we were just like, the only thing that was popping, that was the biggest thing at the time was Cameo. Because Larry Blackmon had the red cup, they had the red Ferraris, he was driving around doing Attack Me With Your Love and all these records, Single Life. So you could see him and be like, oh man, he's really making it worldwide. But that was the closest thing you saw because even down to Peabo, the SOS band, you knew they were big like that, but at that point, Larry Blackmon was huge. Yeah. And so he was huge in pop.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like, man, okay, if he can do that there, that's what's happening here. And I started playing at like Mr. V's Figure 8, at like playing keyboards for Greg Willis and these local bands when I was 14. Send Susie. We just started being like kind of playing in these local bands here. And I didn't really feel like it was electric until I think it was even when Princess and Starbreeze started, like when we did Deborah Killen's album, you were saying, okay, something is starting to get out of here. It started getting electric right when we did the Mr. Hey, Mr. DJ for Joyce Irby. And you started to say, okay, other stuff is coming out of Atlanta. She's coming out of here even though we're connected to Motown now from Gerald Busby. So the outlets changed, and you started to say, okay, now something is starting to move because people are actually having records. You can go to Tower Records and see the records out. The cassettes are hitting it, you know. But it really, when we did ABC, is when everything really caught on fire.
Let's talk about Another Bad Creation real quick. Because it was a game changer in a lot of ways, sound wise. Obviously, Criss Cross and Another Bad Creation, another group that first album I studied, but that really was different. I mean, they were, first of all, they were so young,
So little, man.
They were, when you watch the video now, they're like, I'm like,
Little Dave was 5 years old. Can you imagine your 5-year-old or your 7-year-old or your 9-year-old being in Another Bad Creation?
Right.
That's crazy.
Like GA was the oldest and he was 11.
and 5 of them. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of them, just on a sugar high. You know what I'm saying? But the album is so good, and it's. We were playing Aisha before the show started. It's a classic.
It was funny because they didn't know, like they wouldn't know as kids. Now they were performing, they were dancing, and Kevin Wells had them just cutting up. Like you see them on Old National Highway, over outside the thing, just had their hats out, the money going in, just going in. Wow. So that was the first step. We said, okay, if they can dance and entertain like that, we can fix the other part, right?
Okay.
So once we started recording them, because I started working with Boyz II Men actually a little bit first, and then Michael said, well, why don't you come down to Atlanta and just go work with Another Bad Creation kids? And he had them in a drop crotch, like gold outfit, like New Edition had. I said, why are we doing that? He said, what do you mean? I said, they should be like Little BBD, not Little New Edition. And he goes, oh. And I said, yeah, okay. So yeah, it'll be more fun. That make them be kids, you know. So we started going in that direction, and then that came into hip hop. Okay, well, how do we make these hip hop kids that's going to be from Godby Road, that's going to be able to, you know, still maintain as a small BBD? And Mike Bivens called. He said, I want you to make a record called Aisha. I said,
so he knew what he wanted to be called Aisha.
He knew what he wanted to be called because it was Stevie Wonder's niece or daughter or something.
Okay.
And he just said he just loved the name. Can you make a song out of this? I was like, all right. And so then I went and wrote Aisha and made the whole thing. I said, I'm gonna make them a little poison instead of a little, you know, new edition record. So I went on purpose and say, how would this be? Let's put all the noises in it. Let's make it like it's an adult record, and then write it
A little
like
poison.
cool
A
at-
little poison.
Yeah.
A little poison.
It all makes sense now.
It makes so much sense. Okay, all right. Sorry, we just stop and just readjust. All right, go ahead. Sorry, that was crazy.
Yeah, and you know, making it that way is what was going to make the kids cool. Now you had the Boys out with Down My Heart, right? So
Yeah.
I always looked at it like this. When I started looking at records from a writing and marketing standpoint, I was like, man, either you could do the same thing to follow them, or you got to find the opposite people to do the other things. So you had the villain of them, right? So I was like, okay, the boys, they're gonna be from the suburbs, and they got the cardigan jackets on, and this. We got to be from God Be Rolled in the hood. And talk about dope boys and drug dealers they see at the playground, and like JoJo and Dave, JoJo and Dave that we talk about in at the playground was really them boys at that time, and they was around, and they showed us, like, we wouldn't even know that if you was in the street you could have Mercedes and Ferraris and stuff like that. They saw us and saw that the kids would come out with the record and was like, okay, we want to be in that business. But we used to sit around at them and be like, how do they get all this money? You know? So all the stuff that we would talk about with them would be real stuff from God Be Road. And so that's what kept them real and kept them street and kept them a little adult, you know, and it separated them from being the boys at the same time.
We sound crazy.
Don't take it personal.
Listen,
One of them
Monica,
days.
just one of them days. We're sitting with the brother who signed Monica.
signed.
That's crazy.
Miss
Rowdy
Dang.
Records, to be more
Rowdy.
specific.
Yes.
Yes.
Dallas Austin as our guest this week.
I see the logo in my brain.
Right.
Where did that name Rowdy? Where did it come from?
We were, I was actually working on the TLC stuff from the first album, and LA and Clive started going, you know what? We want you to have a record company, and you know, and I was like, man, I don't want a record company. I'm slam dancing at this point. I'm like, I'm just in the thick of like having an alternative fun I can have, you know. And it's like, oh man, well, why don't you just, you know, sign the acts you want to sign? Like, you don't have to sign the Monicas and stuff. We know you're hanging around skateboard kids. We know you're hanging around this and that. Just like sign that stuff, rock bands, whatever, sign it. So then I said, okay, well, that's interesting, you know, because this is all the kids I was hanging around, and so I said, okay, I'll do that. Like, if LaFace is gonna be LaFace, then I can find all the alternative kids I like, and we can have an outlet for them in Atlanta too, because it's new. So I found this kid, Y'all So Stupid. And when I found Y'all So Stupid, there was skateboarding, graffiti, doing the whole Far Side kind of thing. And so I was looking at names one day I was like, I gotta find a name for the record company, guys. I don't have it. We're gonna have a company now, you know, all my friends are like, we need a name. And the kid H2O starts going, what about Rowdy or DARP or whatever? You know, so Rowdy, yeah, that's cool, let's use Rowdy. And we kind of took it from there, and, you know, had the kid with the bat first with the beanie as a logo. And as soon as we got it situated and I signed Y'all So Stupid, then LA was like, this needs to be in New York. And I was like, that's what I was trying not to do at all. I don't want to go to New York. So he's like, but yeah, we're going to have a rap label stuff. Arista really wants you to put it in New York, and don't worry. And go see what they got already. Go see. It's an office. Everything's set up. You can, you know, all right. So I get up to New York. It's full on. I got like 23 staff members.
Just like that.
Just like that. 23 staff members.
Oh, the 90s.
Like, budgets are through the roof. I mean, it just got me set. I'm like, and I'm coming from Atlanta. So I'm not even really into New York like that from New York standpoint.
yeah.
I'm into it from an Atlanta standpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I get there and I just start going into my office every day and kind of going back to the office, left the window up, smoking some weed, listening to some music. I don't have nothing to do with what's going on outside my office. And that's actually what made me and Busta get really close, because he started coming by with Karen Veazey, and he would come back in the office with me and we would smoke and just listen to records. And then one day my A&R girl came in and she said, yo, you like everybody out here? I said, I think so. She's like, well, you might want to have a staff meeting, you know, so you can talk to everybody.
Just do a little business.
So I'm like, all right, cool. So what, this your head of marketing, this is alternative, this is this is that. I'm like, oh, I'm set. I got an alternative department. They set up, you said you wanted a street label, alternative label, that's what they said. So Rocky Buchanan was the president, who's now the head of the Hip Hop Museum in New York. And he had started with like a lot of Spoonie G's and a lot of the first rappers. Karen Veazey, who went on to be with Pharrell, and Kim Smith and Kim Lumpkin, and the whole squad that's still working on everybody's stuff now is my first staff. And so we just started rocking through New York and going to giant steps and kind of really just saying, okay, if I'm gonna be here, let me get into New York then. Let me get in the mode. And then that's when we started Flip Mode with Busta. Busta came up and he was going to leave the leaders of the new school. He didn't even want to leave. He was like, man, Charlie Brown's leaving, man. I want to stay in, but I got to go on my own, and, so I got to act, Rampage. So that's cool.
Wow.
I said, well, come on, let's think of a name. Let's get the label going. And so it came with Flip Mode.
My mind is like,
That's crazy.
Yes.
It's just history.
Yeah, and then we started Flip Mode out of there. And that became fun because now I got like a New York kind of squad with me. I got Busta and Diamond D and the Eric Sermon started coming around. And then after a certain point when I moved Rowdy from New York, after he signed Outkast, when he signed Outkast, I was like, man, they're supposed to be signed to Rowdy, bro. Said, oh, no,
that actually makes sense.
I thought you didn't really care for him that much. It's like, how am I not care? I'm the one from Atlanta, bro. I know what they're actually saying, all right?
Yeah.
So then after that, I was like, I really don't want a label in New York, like coming back and forth to here. And like, that just wasn't it for me. I was like, I'm going to go back to the crib. Y'all keep Rowdy, and I'm going to go to Atlanta and just start over doing what I was doing. And so Clive called and was like, no, take it with you. Take Rowdy with you. It's your baby. You don't want to. I was like, man, I'm almost $8 million in debt, bro, after this point, because we got New York overhead and 23 staff members. And back then, budgets was $500,000, $300 to $500 to record, because the studio cost was $2,000 for every 6 hours. Everything was just a total different game. And you had to really believe in somebody if you was gonna spend that money on them. It was no other way around it. So by the time we got here, he said, look, I wiped the debt. Just go start over in Atlanta. So, all right, well,
Clive,
okay.
wipe the debt.
Clive, can you wipe my debt?
Clive, wipe the debt.
Wipe the debt, Clive. It's a tax write-off. So by the time I got here, same setup. But now I'm across from the AJC newspaper in the C League offices. So it's the whole Rowdy floor right there. And now I got staff and everything up again. And so I'm like, well, now I gotta sign somebody that I know can deliver something. So that's when I found Monica, the Ryan Cameron talent show, Kevin Wells found her. And said, I found this little girl, man, you gotta see her. So he brought her up to Dark. She's like 12. She started singing The Greatest Love of All. And she had a little sweatsuit on with a bunch of little Greenbrier chains. And like just
Greenbrier.
Just Southside to death. Southside to death. And when she finished singing, she was like, am I done yet? And I was like, whoa. Look at the attitude. I was like, that's amazing. Like, so then as we started to dive into to working on her, we made sure her records were like, instead of I Want to Be Down, you're like, you got to get down. It was like more like everything was assertive. Everything was like in her control. Like everything was about her being in control of everything. Like this and like that.
She was so grown on that first album.
I Love You So Much. All those records. I'm like, she was singing at 13.
But her first album is arguably her best album.
To me, I think so too.
I think
like
so.
Kicking It With You and those records, having Tim involved, and like just the feeling of the record. Because obviously, you know how it is with the first albums, you're the only one involved.
Yeah.
It blows up because they didn't want to put out Don't Take It Personal at Arista because I didn't understand why, and so they kept just delaying me and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move this date. So I'm like, hold on, wait. Let me ask you a question. I just got to ask y'all straight up. What do you think about Don't Take It Personal, Monica, as a record? What do you think it's gonna do? I think it'd be top 40, maybe. I said, oh, for real. That's where we disagree, and that's why I'm out again.
Strike two.
I'm out. Doesn't make no sense. That's what I do when I wake up. So this ain't Fishbone. This is like, if you don't understand. Well, and Clive goes, well, I just, it needs a bridge. I said, nope, not putting one in there. I said, it's a 13-year-old girl singing over backseat of the Jeep. It's just one of them days, don't take it personal.
Yeah.
It's too ignorant for a bridge.
A pretty bridge.
It's not for it's not for y'all. It's for her demographic of people to understand her.
Yeah.
So I said, so this ain't gonna work though. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to have a record company. I'm good. I want to go make records and have fun. Like they take it to test it at radio because I said I want to leave again. They call Dallas, this record's going through the roof. It's testing crazy. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Just probably trust Dallas.
We sound crazy.
The switch ups and the way you came back with different things, and by the way, always being true to yourself because alternative is always in there, right?
Even when I did Just Like a Pill, Pink, I started working on her first album at the end, and when I started working on it, I was just like, I don't really feel this R&B. Like, y'all, I don't know, that's Shakespeare because Shakespeare was doing that stuff. I'm like, he got it. Let him do it. You know what I'm saying? And by the time we got to the second album, Pink was like, no, I want to get with Dallas because she know I was going to do more pop rock alternative stuff. And she actually skated to my skating rink in some blue and yellow skates and a pink silk jacket. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, I know what to do already. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? We're happy days on this thing. And then I did Just Like a Pill. No, I did probably another song first, and then I did Just Like a Pill. And then we sent it in to LA, and then he was like, that ain't it. It was like, because again, his head was stuck in where he really wanted it. And what he saw for her was the extension of where she came from. I always look at it, if you get to a platform, you got to switch it up when you got people looking at you, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I did it, at first he didn't get it. And I said, well, that's where I am, man. So, maybe Irv Gotti or somebody else, whoever you want to do
Not
it.
Irv Gotti.
Not Irv Gotti and Pink.
Because he was
With all due respect.
But at that time, Ashanti was, so
Yeah.
and so then I think he got a chance to sit with it and played it for the staff and people like that, and then saw enough people flip out that he just came back and was like, yo, whatever you're doing, go back and finish that.
It changed the game. You understand? The license it gave for black musicians to be other, right? The same thing. I remember the first time I heard I'm Pretty, and I was like, they're starting with guitars?
I did the same thing because I
was like, what?
Yeah.
I was a big Annie DeFranco fan. If y'all never heard of Annie DeFranco,
Yeah.
she was like before Alanis Morissette. Alanis kind of took a lot of her writing style. But this is an alternative, was the epitome of alternative. Like he was a basket case writing how you felt out of stuff, making it feel positive, And so I knew at some point I knew on the second album that by the time we got to the third one, I was gonna go there.
Those bold steps changed the game because, like, for a lot of the writers, a lot of producers, it made it possible, right? So the way I started my career saying, you're not going to put me in a box because Dallas Austin proved that we don't have to be in a box. And that was like that was literally my game plan up until, and it still is right now, was like, I'm going to do everything that I learned, everything I saw on TV that I loved, I'm going to do. Like when you did Madonna, I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy.
Bedtime stories, man.
That's what I'm saying. When I heard Secret, I was like, I'm not crazy. Like we can do whatever we want to do, and it can be slamming.
And I was in London a lot back and forth at those points where music was so different in London than here that you were just like, okay. And then in London, it was like, yo, give me all the stuff you do this way. When we also did Just Like a Pill, it was a way of taking, back then Ecstasy had just came out, and so me and my girl at the time was like, that was our thing. But then we broke up, and I was like, oh, well, instead of making me better, you're making me ill. And when I wrote the song, I wrote it and left the second verse open for Pink, just because you want to make sure the artist can, have their input on it too. But those songs I written, and then by the time he said, well, go back and do what you're doing. So we got to the studio, started working, and we were recording, I think, 18-wheeler, and she goes, man, I'm a hazard to my health. I said, you're a hazard to yourself. Don't, and I said, don't let me get me. You know what? Hold on, let's work on that for a second.
Wow.
So, come on, man.
And then I put in the record that LA told me you'll be a pop star.
I'm about to ask you, did LA give you a call? Like, so what's really good?
She was the one that was freaking out first. Because like even an 18-wheeler, when I say, you can hate me like a slave, I'll go underground. She's like, think I can say that? I'm like, trust me, you're fine. Then when we got to LA told me you'll be a pop star. All you got to change is everything you are. I'm tired of being compared to damn Britney Spears.
Yeah.
She was like, come on, you think I should be saying this? I'm like, look, all I'm doing is giving you a nudge so you can separate yourself from them. Yeah. And it's not like you're dissing anybody. You're just separating yourself attitude-wise from them. You know, she's so pretty, that just ain't me. So, those are the things that's going to keep you separated from falling into her category. Somebody has to have the alternative spunk. Yeah. So this whole album was full of just me writing stories coming out of a relationship, being like, okay,
that's crazy,
how do I make these relate to what Pink's going through. And then the Perry did Get the Party Started, and and that's kind of jumped everything off. But all the rest of it was just, really changing the course of her, changing the course of her music, and then gaining more fans.
Thank God y'all did.
Yes. Okay.
That's the Pink that we love
Pink.
today.
We wouldn't know it, right? Yeah.
We love the Pink that you sit on that track.
We sound crazy.
Something's coming over me. My baby's got a secret.
So Dallas, here we sound crazy. We play a game called Word or Name Association, depends on the day of the week.
Yep.
So we'll say a name or a topic or a subject, and you just say the first word or phrase that comes to your mind. No right or wrong answer.
No right or wrong answers here.
Okay, cool.
Madonna.
That's the first word that comes to my mind. I don't know if you've seen that thing at the concert, but Did y'all see that?
The one shifted in Brazil.
Yeah.
No.
No, what I miss? You never know with Madonna. It's always something.
So, all right. So yeah, the concert she had in Atlanta just now.
Oh, okay.
Then in front of 20,000 people, she she comes to the front of the stage and she starts telling the story how she was recording in Atlanta and how she fell in love with me and I treated her like shit. And you can see this on Instagram. And I'm like, what? And then I'm on the screen. She said, yep. And then she keeps going. This goes on for like a rant. This goes on to like, yeah, I was here. We recorded in the woods. La 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 la. Da, 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 da. And then she goes, and if you don't know who he is, his name is Dallas Austin. He's right here. So me and my girlfriend sit in front row.
Oh, wow.
She was like, you dating Madonna?
So you didn't tell me this before we came to this show.
I know, I didn't know it was gonna come out like that. And so I'm just like, and I don't even know what to say because I'm just like, she's just going on. I mean, she goes on for like, she tells a whole story, and then she goes, well, "That's all right, I forgive you. You were young then." And then she starts. First, I was afraid. I was petrified.
I was
I'm
survived.
like, are you kidding me?
What?
I will survive.
I will survive. Not even into your own record. Into I will survive.
She said, and she goes, "Let me see if I still remember how to play this one." And then she starts to play. I'm like,
Oh,
really,
my
man?
God,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
But so yeah,
It's
the
kind
whole.
of iconic though.
No, so
I mean,
that makes sense.
The
though.
next day, obviously my phone was going crazy.
Yeah,
and
of
then, like,
course.
so it's a big, it's a big honor in one way, but a big just like
What the hell?
another way.
What's
Like,
going on? Yeah.
but yeah, we had a great time, to say the least. Making an album.
Hey, clearly.
Clearly.
I got one. Pebbles.
Mercedes boy. That's just because that record when it came on, it was so different from me. I don't know, it just felt weird.
Crazy, Sexy, Cool.
Left eye.
Rowdy.
Man, that's a good one. Monica. Yep.
Rico Wade.
Oh man. Just like jelly beans. That's the first I think that was one of the first people who I met in Atlanta that made it where I felt Atlanta. Like I felt the Atlanta of it. Because the first time I met Rico Wade, he was at Jelly Beans and I walked in and he had a box. And that was the first time I've seen that. He had like all silk willy wear. And he had his phone and he was talking on his phone. And I'm like, damn, who's this dude he's on the phone in the skating rink? So then I started being like, and then so by the next weekend, I was looking at and talked to him a little bit. And Rico said, so by the next week, I figured out you can get phones. And I had a little more money at the time because we just started working with Joyce. So I came back with a little flip, a little more with the, not the flip, the one that's like this, the big one.
Yeah.
And then that's the first time he came up to me and said, yo, man, you got a phone too? So we kind of kicked it off from there. And then he had FDC. So, I mean, he had, guests. So they were dancers, like Rico, Pat, Denard, Ted. They had a dance crew. So that's what they were doing. We were skating, and they'll be over in the dance part. And it started to get to the point where when I would come to the skating rink, they knew I was making records, but we hadn't really been all, it's just Princeton, Starbreeze, and whatever. But when Mr. DJ came out, they started playing it at Jelly Beans too. And then I was known, oh, that's his record kind of thing. So then Rico and them, they had New Boys. And Brady, the guy who owned Jelly Beans, was like, you know what, y'all want a studio, why don't you use this room for it. So that first studio was inside the skating rink. Wow. This was before they started Organized Noise.
That's crazy.
What? Wow.
Yeah, they didn't turn into Organized Noise until Pebbles got here.
So wait a minute.
Never knew that.
So Pebbles is instrumental in making them Organized Noise?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Crazy.
They became organized around the time that she started rounding them up to do PA and all this stuff. But they were New Boys before that, and so they've been doing the whole time we were at the skating rink and working, and they were doing music and beats and stuff. They had a whole different thing, and then right around that time, the Pebbles came and LA and them came, and that's when they started forming Organized Noise.
All right, a couple more then. Since you did that, first thing that comes to your mind, L.A. Reid.
Success.
Absolutely. Boyz II Men.
Harmony.
Another Bad Creation.
Aisha, yeah.
Drumline.
That's a good one. First thing come to my mind is really, the first thing I saw in my mind when you said it was the Georgia Dome, because when I went to do Drumline, they wanted to make musicals at Fox. And I was just in a meeting listening to what they were saying about musicals, and I was like, well, you gotta have a good excuse, like a marching band. And I was like, a marching band? What's good about it's about a marching band. I was like, oh, yeah. You ever seen the Southern marching bands? I was like, no. And I had been to the Battle of the Bands before that. And I filmed it. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna look at this. And it was like dun 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 dun. Bun, bun, right?
Yeah.
They was like, what is this? I'm like, that's Southern marching bands. And they said, okay, well, what's the story to it? And in the meeting, I just said, what's about a kid who can't read music that's in the marching band? Because that was me in school. And then they said, wait, hold up. And they started pushing up the board a little bit. And then it turned into something real. Now, it took me 10 years to make Drumline. Every day. I didn't get off of it. I just kept, every day I was doing something to get Drumline made. I was like, it got stuck in turnaround, where they'll get the movie, they'll write it and all that, and then they'll say, you know what, we didn't nail it, we're just gonna keep it. And so I'm like, no, you can't keep it. We gotta figure it out. So I went to Quincy Jones, like, Q, how do I do this? Because he had done The Color Purple and all this stuff. And he had showed me this tape. He was like, man, look at this tape. It's Oprah, Danny Glover, and they're like in a theater, and then somebody holding the camera, and he's like, who do you think is holding this camera right now, filming this Color Purple scene? I said, who? He said, Steven Spielberg. I said, holding the camcorder? He said, yeah. He said, you want to get something done in the film industry? You got to have a friend of yours, and preferably they're Jewish. Oh, that's why he directed The Color Purple. Because if you look at it, Steven Spielberg directed Color Purple.
Yeah.
He needed some more money for a train scene, and they wouldn't give him. And because they didn't believe that movies were supposed to be $7 million at that point, any urban movies. But they kicked it to 13. So at that point, he pulled in Spielberg. He said, you direct this for me?
Needs more
They're like, we'll give you whatever you want. And the same thing with me and Drumline. I got to that point, and Jody Gerson, who's
Shout out to Jody.
Shout out
love Jody
Jody.
Gerson.
Yeah.
She's taken care of us a long time. I went to her and I said what Quincy said. He said, if I want to get this movie made, need a friend, preferably somebody Jewish, and it sounds like you.
She was like, cool.
She's like, yeah, and you know who my friend is? So Wendy Feinerman. She just came off of Castaway and Forrest Gump. Those are her movies. I said, yeah, we need her then. So she's like, can I produce it with you? I'm like, of course, let's go. So I went back to Fox and was like, so I got Wendy Feinerman. They was like, no way. You got Wendy Feinerman. Okay, so wait, can this take place is this a high school movie? Can it take place in college? I'm like, it's bigger in college. It's like, okay, let's make it. And so then it started getting on track for real, but that was after, 10 years of going back and forth. And she told me straight up, she said, look, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I have no idea what a Southern Marching Man movie is, but I believe you do. So I'm gonna afford you off so you can go make it. So if it gets successful, I'm probably gonna make all the money off of it, but you'll be able to, but you made a movie.
Congratulations. You made a movie.
So I was like, as long as I got to make the movie, I can prove I could do it,
Yeah.
And so every day I would be recording the bands because we have to have playback to play on the field. And like, it was just a whole to-do running back and forth. But the reason it came out like it did is from that reason. I had my hands on it the whole time.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the marching band. So if it doesn't strike the right chord, then all of them are not gonna like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody loved it.
We loved it.
Yes.
Yeah, we love it.
That influenced me to want to go to a HBCU.
Yeah.
We
See
loved that movie.
Yeah.
Drumline and ATL.
Well,
Yeah.
that's my movie right there.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and I gotta publicly acknowledge Dallas because as a producer and director myself, who does a lot of work in Georgia, people may not realize this, but Dallas was instrumental in the passage of the Georgia tax incentive.
Yeah.
So that is like,
And it was for ATL actually, because I did Drumline and it came in at 18 million instead of 13. That's when they started going to put white bands in. And I was like, okay, now you're gonna mess the movie up. what white bands you want to put in? So we put them in, we just took them out. Because it didn't make sense to hurt the schools like that. It's two different things, you know what I'm saying?
Different cultures.
So we started getting into ATL, and they were like, they raised the budget on the movie based off of us doing Drumline. And I said, wait, we don't need 18 million to do this movie. It's a skating rink movie. It's not marching bands everywhere. But Drumline kicked up the new budget for everything in Hollywood. So now instead of 13, everything needed to be 18 made, right? So I'm like, all right, well, then they start going, well, if you go to New Orleans, it's cheaper. So I'm like, man, I can't do that. This is an Atlanta movie. I mean, the people that skate in ATL, I skated with them my whole life. Like in the movie, those are all my same skate crews. I just taught T.I. and them how to skate. But they ended up going, okay, well, it's too expensive. So I went and got this bill from New Orleans, from Sam Nazarian. And I came back and I was like, went to the governor's office, like, we got to pass this bill. And they was like, nah, that ain't it. So I spent about $200,000 lobbying, getting stuff together. And then I had to go to the G8 Summit to speak, which is
That's crazy.
Crazy.
which I thought was a G4 summit, right? I'm in the studio all night. I'm smoking, making beats. My dude's like, yo, what you doing? You got to catch a flight at like 6. I got this, dog. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I keep on going. Get to the airplane. Let me get a double Bloody Mary.
double Bloody Mary though.
But have a blast, right? He's like, what are you doing right now? I'm like, dude, I got this. What is a gaming summit? Just sit there, play some video games, talk about some music, right? We're landing in Savannah, right? Which is it's like a 40-minute plane ride. We land in Savannah. I'm like, it's tanks, Hummers, everywhere. You're just like, whoa. I'm like, this shit look like martial law.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on? He said, I'm trying to tell you, you're going to the G8 summit to speak. I was like, wait, what is the G8 summit then? He's like, well, it's going to be you, Tony Blair, George Bush, and all the other world leaders.
Not a video game summit.
I ain't got no clothes, yo. I ain't going no suit. You know me, I'm just like, so I'm like, what? We're landing. I'm like, okay, I got to get it together. You got to get some coffee. You get me at the airport, see if they got a tie or blazer or something, right? So I finally get to the event. Dude, there's like flags everywhere and suits, you know, the G8 summit. So I'm like, man, okay, here I am, and I haven't looked at my speech yet at all. I had this lady write a whole speech for me, you know, on behalf of Georgia. Didn't even see it because I was just going somewhere else. So then I get up there and I pull it out. I'll tell you, it's like every big word I never said in my life. And I'm like, okay, behalf of Congressional State of Georgia. And now I'm just like, I can't mess this up. So I'm just ball of the paper and just go, look, I'm trying to shoot a movie here, trying to keep our economy in Georgia. We keep letting people leave out of here that could be working here and going home. You know, we have so many Georgia stories to tell. We need to open this up. We did it through music. We told so many stories on record. Now we need to tell them like this, and boom. And so after that, they were like, all right, well, like Dallas said, and then you end up cutting the yellow ribbon with the governor. I didn't know it was for film at the time. I thought it was for me.
It affected the whole state.
You know, if I'd have known I was doing it for the state, I would have had add me a percentage in, you know, like 1 or 2%, you know. But but it did make a big impact. And it made it so that, you know, now the industry here is turning into Black Hollywood, but we're not going to forget about the music. You know, that's one of the things championing around the town is to make sure that when you land in this town, you see music everywhere, because right now you don't see it anywhere. We got to do better at when you land in the city, you see it and you feel it. And you feel like in Nashville, whether it's bars up and down the street everywhere, whether it's just a music-driven city. And that's not even what the head, Nashville was really the head of healthcare. You know, that's their real thing because they had the best healthcare. But the Jubilees from TSU, they went to sing. They went to sing for the Queen of England. And she's the one that said, oh, you must be from the Music City. So then they changed the name of Nashville to the Music City based off of them saying that. But, you know, I feel like we got a lot of work to do here music-wise. Music is the low-hanging fruit for all the kids. Right? They know that, you could be shooting at Tyler Studio at Assembly behind them gates, but that ain't no hope for the kids. They just like see that and say something they can't get into.
Right.
Music,
everyone can do.
They can do it. They can find their way as a producer. They can find their way as an artist, as an engineer, as something that would mean, you know, something important to their careers in music here. And they seen their friends make it. So everybody's just like, okay, little baby can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. You know? If I'm introducing someone to just the sound of what Dallas Austin is as a producer, what project album would you suggest that I give them?
Fan mail.
Ooh.
The fan mail project. Because, you know, it was, for me, I was able to like, you know, I like to paint my picture, and then when I'm finished, you can add your stuff to it. But let me paint this first, and then you'll kind of know. And I would do that for all the TLC stuff, with the exception of Crazy Sexy Cool. Like I said, you could tell LA jumped in more. And by the time we got the fan mail, it was kind of like, go back and do what you was doing kind of thing. Because the cohesiveness was more important. That all the stuff that went on with the group, it was more important for them to feel like this unit again and bring you back into their world than to be like, okay, here's another song. And a lot of times it's not about, you know, we can go for this is going to be the one that's like the hit or whatever. But when you think in this mentality, you don't think that way. And you have to figure out which one works best for the project after you finish it. But going through fan mail and even from moving the voices around, like I had to sample the Macintosh at the time and put each word in there just like you. I get lonely too, or make it rap through silly hole. You know you can't get with this. One night you just go and bust. Wow. Why to give it up? Why you even try your luck? Crazy. But you had to put it on. I had to put it on each key.
I'm so mad right now.
And move it around to put it in rhythm because it was no way to put the voice in rhythm. So like I said, man, you just dive into being innovative when you got the time to be. Like I always say, out of frustration comes innovation.
Yeah.
So when you're like frustrated with something, try something else or do something else to make a difference out of it. And fan mail, just even just the whole experience of it, going from in Japan, they whooped to the 1 and 2. And being able to use that voice and that technology through the record at that time, was just super cool. And then by the time the Silly Ho came in, the ting, 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 ting.
Crazy.
And it felt more like, for the group at the time, it was the most worldly album we had done as far as like more international album we had done,
I have a TLC theory that you're actually confirming the more you talk, right? And I'm gonna present it to you. Tell me if I'm right. And I thought this before, but hearing what you said about your influence with Prince and George Clinton, I've always said that TLC is actually a female funk band.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Which changes everything about how you hear the songs.
Yep. And I've been on T-Bar since Jelly Beans with Rico Wade. All of us used to be at the same. She was in the dance group with them. So we all been cool since all this time. So her, when she first came in, and when LA said, "Okay, here's the group," I was like, "Oh, you kidding me? Tion, you in the group now? What
you doing here?"
I said, "All right, well, I already know what to do with her because she hangs with us, and she don't like girls like that. Like she's like coolest with the guys. She's always gonna have cap down low. She's always gonna have baggy pants on, and so the theory of it really started from her, and us being around T-bars and seeing her wear jabots and like how, and then." Being like, well, she sounded like a cross between Prince and Teddy Riley if she's gonna sing that low. So in that turn, I used to tell him, funny he says funk, because when I would have her sing, I was like, make your face like this, like frown when you ow. We used to do it all the owls and everything in the records back then. He's there, right?
Ow. All that stuff. I'm not wait a minute. Because you got to give them respect, and then you also got to think about the fact that like there's so many offshoots of TLC. Britney Spears, Drake, Pink, lots of stuff were influenced by them, but it's not like your typical doo-wop girl group. It really is a funk band, and that sound.
That's the great way to put it. You're totally right.
My theory works.
We sound crazy.
Shout out to Tennessee State University.
Huge. Grammy Award winning.
I just had to connect the dots. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a project that Louis York was a part of. Dallas Austin produced the project. Congratulations again on the Grammy win. That was
incredible. That was and the documentary is coming out still behind this. So it's a documentary that goes with this. That's based off. It's called The Road to Ambition, and it's based off of me and Sir the Baptist getting these doctorates at TSU. And neither one of us graduated from high school. And so, and it kind of talks you through how, what it kind of takes, ambition-wise to get to what you want to get to. So, and a part of that was, we want to make an album to this documentary, or we want to record with these kids to show the school, thank you for the doctorate, for one. And let's make an album that's full of like gospel and hip hop and, let's just, and use the marching band, which has never been done like that. And let's just see what happens. And as we started working on it, we started getting more ambitious about, think you can get a Grammy, and as Sir and start putting more and more stuff together and AA, and it just started to come out like, okay, this is amazing. I think we put in for it at the last minute.
Yo, we were talking to Sir. Like, first of all, he came to the studio and played us what y'all had already, and was like, first of all, he said you were involved. We're like, yes, we're involved. We want to be involved too, but. I remember when he was literally putting in them last submissions at the last minute.
Because I was like, I don't know, man. I'm calling the Grammy folks and being like, yo, is it too late? If we submit it now, you can get to hear it. Is it gonna then? It was like, well, let's just go for it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad the energy is amazing because, you get to see all of that in the documentary. You get to see when we started it. You get to see us hoping for it. You get to see the kids working hard. You get to see me telling my story about the drumline and what marching band meant to me and what it means to everybody in our communities, and we give a little bit of history of TSU, but then we end up getting a Grammy on it, and so that's one of the reasons that it took a second too, because we was kind of say, okay, it's gonna keep going. What's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? But it's incredible that was even able to be achieved.
It's crazy. It's historic.
It's historic. It's like I'm super proud of it, and it's gonna just elevate it again as soon as we drop the doc because it has all the music in it. So
we were proud to be a part of it, honestly.
That was insane,
crazy, man.
It's a great project. So Dallas, typically during each episode, we have a segment, the Irby, which we're gonna not do this week. We're not. We typically give an award to someone that's kind of unsung. Maybe that hasn't gotten the flowers. But this week we want to do something completely new, fresh. We haven't done it before.
Never done it.
It's the first time. When we're talking about your catalog, your discography, just all the songs that
Influence.
Influence, culture shifter.
Yeah.
So we actually want to present the first ever We Sound Crazy Producer and Songwriter Hall of Fame Award.
To the one and only.
The one and only, man.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Dallas Austin, make some noise.
That's dope. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all talked about how much you mean to culture, but it's like I said, it's personal.
Yeah.
Man. Like I wouldn't be where I am in this as a musician without following your footsteps from afar. So getting to sit and talk to you,
Thank you, man.
personally is a milestone for me because you made a way for a lot of us.
Well,
Absolutely.
I think all of us when it gets down to it, because whether they hear Kelly Clarkson's song or mine or whoever, it's just I think it was just a way to push the boundaries so that other kids know that it exists at this point.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it also made the industry as a whole, like it's a total different place than before that.
It is.
Like, so if you walk in with records now, they're not judging you by your color, they're judging how good it is.
Yeah, right.
Whether it's country, whether it's rock, whether it's now it's just all over. They don't even know what to do with it no more.
Yeah,
you can't get a gauge on it because this kid likes everybody.
Yeah.
So how do you separate the promotions, the marketing on that? You kind of just gotta, and that's why a lot of times now you see the industry itself as a whole has lost a gut feeling. All we had was a gut feeling. We couldn't look at anything to give us any stats. You had Nielsen after you got out, and that was it.
Yeah.
But we didn't have anything, no prejudgment. What do they think on TikTok? How many things is going to get on Spotify before we release the next one? Like it was just gut feelings, and the gut feelings is why the music sounded the way it did. Like even down to Jimmy Iovine and what he's done with Dr. Dre and what he's done with Marilyn Manson and what he's done with Gwen Stefani and Black Eyed Peas and all that. That's such a different array of acts, that you can't, that old school way of thinking is just went out the window now. You got to figure out how you relate to the kids now who likes everybody. And that's from all of us knocking the walls down.
100 years from now, when someone's studying the trajectory of the Dallas Austin legacy, what do you want them to take from your legacy?
Oh man, for one, that how much I cared about everything that I'm doing. Period. Not just about the music. I'm glad I get to leave that here on the planet. To always be here, and but how you treat people and how you react in the environment, how you react in your communities and stuff.
Yeah.
You want to just be known for somebody who helped that. And made that advance and made that a better place. Or made that, you leave all that here, you're really leaving something here at that point. And that's why I do so much stuff to take care of, or like look out for one, like I said, I wish it was me, but I look over at Vine City over here, right by the Georgia Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and you go down one of those streets and you're like, whoa, this ain't even hood, this something else. But again, when I put those studios in the schools and you can see how it changed these kids' lives, and teacher come tell me, man, this kid was bad as I don't know what. Now he's got a scholarship going to Berkeley. They got a scholarship going to here. So you can see it work because they know that music is low-hanging fruit from them. So I want to just make sure that in this environment I leave a big enough imprint on the impact we could have in this city, because it's up to us to do it or it wouldn't be done. Like, like the Walk of Fame. If that wasn't an idea that we put together and done, it still wouldn't be sitting there. So all these things that we are able to do here, we got to take advantage of it. We all have the ability to take advantage of it and move the needle.
But Dallas, I want to thank you though, because today, again, we sit on a committee together. Dallas he the plug, man. He knows everybody, but he's also one of the most diplomatic, but you feel the heart even whether it's in person or the virtual. But thank you for what you're doing today to keep it going forward, because he's taking his platform, his relationships, his network, and just helping the entire community. I've witnessed it firsthand. And it's just
man.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. That's what we got to do.
Trailblazer. Like people throw those words out, icon, icon for real, trailblazer for real. Yeah. Really doing things your way.
I appreciate it, man. That's why I stay in Atlanta. I'm the only me here.
Only you here. It's only you everywhere, to keep it real, but definitely the only you here. Only you here.
So I don't need to have you make my Madonna introduction happen? Is that safe?
I mean, I can if you want me to. Hey, I think we're still on a good rapport. Yeah, if you look on my Instagram, you'll see it. But it was just like, you'll see me not even knowing how to act. It was just like, what is going on right now? But it was one of those surreal moments that a couple of days later, he's like, okay, now I can digest it. But first, you're just like, I'm walking out of the damn Phillips Arena and people like, did you know she felt that way about you?
Like, I'm sorry.
Like, you got to imagine like the whole I had to, let me get out of here early.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm walking out, not a person that didn't stop me. Yo, you know she felt that way. Why did you do that? I was young.
You know, broke Madonna's heart.
I know, right?
Oh, and she even commenced to tell how she had a spiritual lady put roots on me, and that didn't work.
What?
And I met the lady. I met her when I was in Miami, and I didn't know that's what she was doing. But she was like, "Oh yeah, you guys are perfect together." And
All that touching.
yeah, that's what. But literally on the stage in front of all these people, she told that whole story. And like, I even had a lady put roots on him. That didn't work. I'm just sitting there like, what?
This is wild.
I'm like, wait, when?
Breaking news. Madonna tried to put roots on Dallas Austin. That's crazy. Man. Well, listen, you might need to come back and share more because there's still so much
so much.
we
So
haven't
much.
covered.
Of course, man.
But listen, it's been an honor to have you. When we end these, I'm gonna give you some time to think before we ask our special guests to choose the song that they feel perfectly encapsulates this conversation. So chew on that.
Any song ever or
Any song. It could be any song that you
anything.
just feel like, this is what I want to end with right now.
Make sure you follow us on all platforms at We Sound Crazy and WeSoundCrazy.com.
And shout out to our partners at Visit Music City. Thank you for holding us down.
That's right. I think I'm gonna go with 1999.
By the one and only Prince.
It's so.
He's been the theme this whole time.
He's been my theme the whole time. And then I just owe. To me, I don't even know what I would be like without Prince, to tell you the truth. 'Cause I just never had nobody that I just idolized that much coming up.
Are you the reason for the Get It Up cover and If I Was Your Girlfriend cover?
Okay.
Your girlfriend?
Yeah.
I always wondered who.
This is a trip because we did a song that had the Nasty Girl beat on it. I don't think I did it. Somebody did it before the girls. And when LA sent it to Prince, he started sending these faxes through going free TLC, free TLC, free TLC, free TLC, right? So on the phone, is that you sending these faxes through? So yeah. You just two things. You tell LA when he cleared up the pipeline for the whole music industry, then we'll talk about it. I said, what? He said, let me tell you another thing. The reason y'all can't sample my record is because they won't let me put an afro on the Mona Lisa, would they? He said, it's all right. That's how I look at my stuff. I don't want nobody altering my stuff. Now, you can remake it and re-sing the whole song over, but you're not going to put an afro on my Mona Lisa.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Again, trailblazing. Like I said.
Trailblazer. And we got to have Dallas back.
You got to come
Yeah,
back.
absolutely.
Man.
There's so much, man.
Come back.
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks to our
Sure.
special guest this week, Dallas Austin. Thanks again. To next week, y'all. We out of here.
Peace.
We sound crazy.
So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 1999.
We sound crazy.